Hey there, folks. It's another quick Slants. Parker Thune alongside Jesse Crittenden here on the OU Insider YouTube channel. We talked to Ben Arbuckle. We talked to Brent Venables earlier today. Pair of press conferences as the Sooners get ready for their first road trip of the young season, heading up to Philly this weekend to face off with Temple in the city of brotherly love. And Jesse, first and foremost here, the Sooners won and won handily against Michigan at the Palace on the Prairie this past Saturday. But all in all, they didn't play a terribly clean game. And many of their miscues came on special teams in particular. And so naturally, Brent Venables was asked earlier today how they clean up special teams miscues.
The basics are what win for you. The basics are also how you get beat. It's the little things, never the big things. It's always the little things, and so it's trimming the fat on the pump block with Sammy. It's doing the right things in the field goal protection. Not putting two hands down on the inside gap. It's 1-on-1. And so you just go back over, use these moments to teach. We're fortunate. We won the game, having made a handful of those mistakes. But there's good and bad in all of it. And, now this is an opportunity to get some things on film that you can coach from and show them how you lose a game, and when it matters most.
And Brent talks about it right there, Jesse. It's little things here and there, but those are the types of mistakes that are going to be magnified, especially once you get into the meat of an SEC schedule that features 8 opponents, all of whom are ranked in this week's AP Top 25.
Pretty impressive that they won as handedly as they did against Michigan with those miscues. I mean, one of those miscues could cost you in an SEC game or even in that Michigan game, let alone the slew of issues that OU had kind of up and down the special teams. I loved his answer. I thought it was clear and concise. He addressed every single miscue and also said, it's good to learn from a loss. It's good to have those lessons and be able to learn those things, from a win as opposed to a loss. To be able to do that in a win because it just gives you more of a margin of error to clean things up. And I think the other thing, Parker, is I think last week was unacceptable from a special teams perspective, but you can have confidence. You can still have optimism that things will be okay. I mean, one, it's Doug Deacon. Last year, this team was top 35 in special teams efficiency. The last 3 years at San Diego State, they were top 10 in special teams efficiency with Doug Deacon. And also there's clear pieces here that you can feel good about everything, but except for maybe field goal kicking. That's still going to be a question. But I think you can still have optimism that things are good, and it's good for OU that they were able to learn those things in a win as opposed to a loss.
If there is another question mark for this team besides special teams right now, it's, well, what's the deal with Jaden Ott? Why does Jaden Ott have only 5 carries for 6 yards thus far on the young season? And why, pray tell, did Oklahoma lean so heavily on John Mateer in the running game against Michigan? Mateer carried the ball 19 times. No Sooner running back accrued double-digit carries in the football game. And here was Brent Venables addressing the quarterback run game with John Mateer and whether or not the Sooners will incorporate more traditional backfield running moving forward.
You have to be willing to do that, and what the byproduct of being willing to do that, on first down, let alone third or fourth down, is that you're going to attract more people down into the box and create more opportunity at throwing the ball. So I don't necessarily think it has as much to do with what you can or can't do, running the ball with the tailbacks, but it makes things a little more difficult and challenging, for the defense. And again, been on a whole heck of a lot of really explosive offenses that had the ability to run with the tailback and still were committed to running with the quarterback too. It's just it creates a whole nother set of problems.
So 2 things can be true here, Jesse, and are. One, the Sooners are going to continue to lean on John Mateer's legs. The quarterback run game is going to be a crucial facet of what this offense does, what their identity is week in and week out. That said, they do need to get more from their backfield, from their running backs, most specifically Jaden Ott, and you'd hope you start to see that this weekend against Temple.
Yeah, and Ben Arbuckle even talked about, I mean, with the running back rotation, there's a lot more that goes into this than just how is somebody doing when they have the ball in their hands. And also, obviously, it's not fair to look too much into this or criticize Jaden not too much. But you mentioned 5 carries for 6 yards, so it's the explosiveness wasn't there against Michigan. But the other thing, Parker, is just is pass blocking, which I asked Ben Arbuckle specifically about Torrey Blaylock in the way that he has grown not only just as a ball carrier but in these other ways. And he said he's been great as a pass protector. He's been great in pass pro as a running back. And when you look at the Pro Football Focus data, Parker, now obviously these numbers aren't gospel, but Torrey Blaylock 75 pass blocking grade. Just an astounding number as a true freshman. Javante Barnes as a 56.7, Jaden Knott with an 18.9. That's been one of the knocks on Jaden Knott, is as explosive as he is as a runner. He hasn't been great in some of these other areas like pass protection. So when you combine John Mateer running the ball as much as he did against Michigan, that will be more of the game plan moving forward. I think when you combine that with some of these other things, there's a reason why the running back rotation has looked like what it has. I think you would hope that becomes more focused and there's more clarity after this Temple game. It's still a long season, but I think there's reasons why things have been the way they have the first 2 weeks.
Not a ton of personnel variation, period, at the offensive skill positions through 2 weeks for Oklahoma. We've seen a lot of Jaron Kanik at the tight end position. Will Huggins has caught one pass, and Carson Kent is the only other guy that's touched the field for Oklahoma at tight end. You look at wide receiver, the lion's share of the snaps have gone to Deion Burks, Isaiah Satania, and Keontez Lewis. Behind those three, nobody has earned more than 13 snaps. Jermichael Carter is fourth on the team at wide receiver with 13 total snaps. Nobody else has touched double digits yet. So for the most part, it's been the Burks, Satania, Lewis show at wideout for Oklahoma. And with regard to personnel variation, Ben Arbuckle addressed that and addressed how the Sooners how the Sooners' philosophy could be encapsulated in that regard earlier today in his press conference. Here's what he had to say.
Well, I think it changes week to week, too, just based on the team that you're playing, because ultimately our biggest goal on the offensive side is to get into whatever personnel, formation, motions, that ultimately give our guys operational space to be successful. And so that can come in a multitude of different ways. It can be 11 personnel, 12 personnel, 20, 21, 10, 00 personnel, 01 personnel. Yeah, like there's so many different ways that you can get to it, but it ultimately just comes down to how are we going to put these kids in the best position to be successful. That's my challenge every single week, because these kids, they work too hard, they're too bought in, and they're so willing for me not to put them in the best position to be successful. So that's my challenge at the beginning of every week is how can I make sure these guys have the best chance to go out there and get the job done.
So yeah, Jesse, while no doubt there are folks that are eager to see what Elijah Thomas could add to this offense, or maybe they want more of Ivan Carrion, I think what everybody wants above all, what every Oklahoma fan wants above all, is for their team to continue to win football games and continue to play effective and efficient offense. And the underlying message there from Ben Arbuckle seems to be, well, if it ain't broke, don't break it.
That's the thing. It's hard to criticize or it's hard to complain too much about what OU's passing attack has been able to do the last 2 weeks. I mean, it hasn't been perfect, but it has been explosive. I mean, leaps and bounds more explosive than it was at any point last season. And so I think it's a little surprising that there hasn't been more of a rotation. I mean, you mentioned not only has no guys outside of those top three logged more than 13 snaps, the total wide receiver room outside of those top three guys, 25 snaps total combined. So
and
it's a
catch.
And one catch.
Jacob Jordan.
It's a little surprising, but Parker, like the running back rotation is a little confusing at times. This isn't confusing. It's maybe a little surprising, but it's not confusing. It's clear they have these top three guys. And really, when you look at Ben Arbuckle's offenses at Washington State, this was more of the norm. And I think if you look at other programs across the country, and especially even at the NFL, there's not a whole lot of rotation at wide receiver. Really, what we've seen the last couple of years at OU is not the norm in terms of how many guys cycled in and out. So, I think at Temple, I think surely if the game goes how we think it will, we'll see more rotation. But it's clear OU has a top three. It's hard to argue with the results, and I think it's clear that this isn't confusing, that when we get to SEC play, unless one of those other guys puts a phenomenal string of practices together, this is what we're going to see.
And it probably will become at least four at a certain point because the Sooners aren't far off from getting Giovanni Gibson back, and Giovanni Gibson will play and play a lot for this Oklahoma offense. But for the moment, those are the three at the head of the table: Burks, Satania, Keontez Lewis. Finally, a really good question directed at Brent Venables today from the legend himself, Barry Trammell. Obviously, John Mateer's the starting quarterback. What of Michael Hawkins? Will the Sooners make an effort to keep the red shirt applied to Hawkins throughout the 2025 season? Here was Brent Venables' answer.
Yeah, you'd like to think that you can control that, and we certainly could, but we might pigeonhole ourselves too. And so, we're preparing him every single week like he's a guy that's got to go in and take 70 or 80 snaps, and until our hands forced, we're not at any liberty to be able to, hey, let's just get him in for a few series here. And so trying to be thinking both short term and long term, would hate to burn his year unnecessarily. So I think the course of the season will kind of work itself out, but we're going to be very mindful of not burning his year, before we have to.
It's a good point that Venables makes, Jesse. As much as you would like to believe you can exert complete control over a situation like that, you really can't. Look no further than 2023, for instance, when Oklahoma intended to play Jackson Arnold for 4 games and redshirt him. But lo and behold, in late November, on a road trip to BYU, Dillon Gabriel takes a hit to the head, has to miss the second half of that game, and here comes Arnold in to burn his red shirt and appear in his 5th regular season game. So at a certain point, it's out of your hands circumstantially. Obviously, though, you'd hope, most everyone would hope, it doesn't come to that and you get 13, 14 games of a healthy John Mateer. But with the way that he plays the game, can never be disregarded that there's a possibility he takes a hit that, or turns an ankle, whatever it may be, does something or sustains something that could cost him time.
He ran the ball 19 times against Michigan. And while, I don't think he's going to hit that number that often, I think we're likely to see more games from him where he gets closer to that number than he did the 7 against Illinois State, right? So when you have a quarterback who runs the ball like this, it's a natural question. You want to have Michael Hawkins ready to go. And I think, Parker, what we've seen, I'm glad you mentioned 2023. I think what you would normally see is, especially in these early season games against Illinois State, Temple, Kent State, these are opportunities to get your backup quarterback on the field, right? Well, in 2023, even before that Jackson Arnold appearance against BYU when Dillon Gabriel got hurt, Parker, he played against Arkansas State in some mop-up duty, but then he played at SMU. He carried the ball a few times because they had a couple of packages for him. He carried the ball against Tulsa once. He carried the ball against Iowa State a couple of times. That wasn't mop-up duty. That was just getting him on the field in a couple of special packages, but obviously they were going to redshirt him. And then all of a sudden you have to play him. And now it's been, so you also have to, you want to get your backup guys on the field when you can, but that does soak up games. And all of a sudden they had to burn Jackson Arnold's red shirt when they weren't expecting to. So I think it's one of those things that wouldn't surprise me if we saw him against Temple, maybe against Kent State. But Parker, I don't think you can throw him out there 3 or 4 times in these early season games because not only John Mateer's playing style, but also things can turn really quickly. Now, all of a sudden, you go from how do we get him in to, we just put him in the 5th game of the season. Now that red shirt's burned.
And it's worth noting as well that one of Jackson Arnold's regular season appearances back in 2023 consisted of 1 snap against SMU. So there's going to be purpose if and when Oklahoma deploys Michael Hawkins. They're not just going to throw him out there randomly. There's going to be a very express purpose whenever they choose to put him on the field. Whether it is by choice or by default, there will be a purpose when you see number 3 out there on the gridiron for the Sooners. Philly this weekend, that's where we'll be. 11 a.m. kickoff local time here in the Central Time Zone as the Sooners wrap up a home and home with the Owls, who are 2-0. 2 pretty impressive wins, albeit against inferior opponents to start the season for Temple. So, can Oklahoma go on the road and keep the pedal to the metal? We will all find out together Stay tuned at ouinsider.com. Tap in with our coverage over there. If you're not subscribed already, please do us a favor and subscribe. And certainly subscribe to this YouTube channel as well. It's a real easy way to stay up to date with all of the video content that we're providing every single day here on this platform for all of you fine fans out there. Until next time, for Jesse Crittenden, I'm Parker Thune. We'll see you soon.